Hi, I'm Christopher Calkins Jr., the treasurer of the Calkins Family Association. Like a lot of you, I've seen photos passed down through our family, names scribbled on the back, faces almost familiar. But this story is different. It's about a photograph you've probably seen, even if you didn't know it had anything to do with us. A man seated at a table, head bowed in prayer, hands folded, a loaf of bread, and a Bible in front of him. You may know it as the grace picture. For many, it's just an image of humility. But for several members of the Calkins family, it may be something much more personal. What follows is a series of memories, stories, and quiet discoveries, all pointing to a single possibility. Could the man in the grace picture be one of our own? Our journey begins with Miss Lois Smith. Take it away, Lois.
Hello, I'm Lois Smith. My father was Lawrence Kegley. His mother was Mary Jane Calkins Kegley. I never got to see that grandmother, but let me tell you what happened. My husband changed jobs from Port Townsend to Salem, Oregon, and you have a different house. You kind of might need some new furniture. And, the furniture stores are so big in Salem. And at one of them, there was a whole wall of pictures. The usual Mount Hood with Lost Lake in the foreground. But there was one picture up there. I really liked it. It said something. And so I bought it. And this is the picture. It tells me to be thankful. I like that. Can you got it? And so I thought it would be nice on the wall in our home, and our 4 girls could learn to be thankful. So we hung it on the wall. Fast forward, scene 2. My father came to visit us a few years later. He sat fairly close to the dining room, and he noticed that picture. He didn't say anything at first. He looked at that picture, and then he looked away. And then he looked at that picture, and he said, "That's Uncle John." Well, I didn't believe him. I didn't say I didn't believe him, but I bought that picture in a furniture store. How could that be my uncle, my great uncle? So I didn't sit down and say, "Oh, tell me about Uncle John." Yet he would have known because he lived right there on John Leon's farm in Ione, Oregon. And that's where his mother died, after she took care of John Leon's wife until she died. Just a few months later, Mary Jane died also. My father was a teenager. So now, let's go ahead to scene 3. I really like the Calkins newsletter. It's a connection, a great connection. And so when I got the Calkins newsletter, my goodness, I think it was, when was it? Much later. 2004, I think, or something. Anyway, so I open the newsletter, and I'm looking at it, and here I turn the page, and here's that very same picture with an explanation that this is Uncle John. John Leon Calkins. Oh, what a great thing. And it was Rob Aaron that put that in that newsletter, so that this little girl, well, old lady then, could find out. But by then, my father had passed on, so I couldn't sit down beside him and say, "Tell me about Uncle John." So that's my story. I found a picture in a furniture store. My family said it was my Uncle John. but I needed that confirmation in a Calkins newsletter. It was Uncle John Leon Calkins, my grandmother's older brother. Thank you.
After hearing Lois's story, I was fascinated but still unsure. Was it really possible that someone in our family could be the man in that photo? That's when I came across Rob Aaron. His branch of the Calkins family traces back through his father's side, and when he shared his memory of the picture, well, I started to realize that this might not be such a coincidence. I'll let Rob inform all of you. Take it away.
My name is Rob Aaron. The Calkins comes down through my dad's side of the family. My dad's mother was a Calkins, Marjorie Calkins, daughter of Harry Calkins, who was Charles Henry's son. Charles Henry was son of James Luther. So all of us here today have James Luther as our common ancestor. The reason I know about the Grace picture, my grandma had one when I was a boy. I don't know whatever happened to it after she passed, but I was in the shopping mall one day, and a lady traveling through selling pictures had her booth set up in the mall, and I happened to see the picture, and I said, "Oh, that's my Uncle John." I said, "I want this picture." It was, I think, under $30, or it wasn't very much, but I didn't have any cash. And I said, "Will you hold it for me?" And she said, "Yes, but tomorrow's my last day. I'm moving on after tomorrow." I said, "I will be back." Ran home, got the cash. The next day I was back. She had it under the counter, and she sold me the picture, and it's now hanging in my bedroom next to my lifetime membership of the Calkins Family Association. So that's my link to fame.
I just want to pause here and thank all of the loyal Calkins Family Association members who have kept these stories alive in our newsletters, at our reunions, through conversations that might have otherwise been forgotten. Honestly, that's what brought this whole story to light. And just when I thought I'd heard it all, it got better. Vaughn Mackenzie reached out, a descendant of John James Leon Calkins, and when I listened to what he had to say, it added an entirely new dimension. His story weaves together family memories, overlooked details, and something that honestly stopped me in my tracks. What he shares here doesn't add to the mystery, it deepens it. And maybe, just maybe, brings us closer to an answer.
Hello, my name is Vaughn Mackenzie. I am the great-grandson of John James Leon Calkins, and I wanted to talk about my memories of this picture. I'm just going to show it at the beginning a little bit, but it's kind of hard to hold it without glare, so, but anyway, I'm just going to put it down for now. I remember just growing up, the subject of conversation quite a few times was this being my great-grandfather. And it was just told around the family like that's who he was. And we'd always thought it would be nice to try and find out exactly for sure if that was really him. So summer of 1990, I spent the summer with my grandma, who is his youngest daughter, and Rita Vivian. And so also that summer, her oldest sister was there, Daisy. And they would sit around and talk, you know how old ladies do. And anyway, one day they were talking about the picture, the Grace picture. And so my grandma's oldest sister Daisy was telling what she remembered. So back when my great-grandfather was elderly, he was living, I think it was in, I can't remember the name of the city, it is not... Sweet Home area. I think it was Sweet Home. So anyway, he was in a rest center there. My mom's here, by the way, too. I'll just ask some questions from her, too. So thank you, Mom. My mom's Ruth Gillan Mackenzie. So anyway, near where my great-grandfather was living when he was in the later years of his life was another sister of my grandma's. It was Aunt Letha. And so when he passed away, she was going through some of his things, and one thing that she found was a strip of negatives. and the strip of negatives had a picture of a man in a praying position giving grace. And she didn't really know what that was or why he had those pictures, but it was pictures of him, and she didn't think anything of it, and she just tossed them because she was cleaning everything out. She had never seen the picture. She had no idea what it was about. Well, 2 or 3 weeks later, so this was in March of 1963, that's when he passed away. A few days later, she went to the shopping center, and she walked in, and lo and behold, on the wall there were several Grace pictures, and she was utterly shocked, really surprised. She had never seen the picture before, and she instantly recognized it as being the same picture as what was in the negatives. So she was excited. She goes, "That has to be my dad. I can't believe it." Now, I have to go back a little bit, kind of jumped ahead in the story. Back in around 1947, everyone was at camp meeting. Now, Seventh-day Adventist Church, it was popular to have camp meetings every summer, and there was one in Gladstone, Oregon, and the whole family was there. And one afternoon, somebody came by, saw my great-grandfather, saw John, and thought he would be a good subject to photograph. And he went with the man, and they did not see him all afternoon. He was gone for 3 or 4 hours. Nobody knew where he had been. And finally, he comes back, probably just about in time for dinner. And of course, everyone wanted to know where he'd been, and he would not tell anybody where he'd been or what he'd been doing. He was very, very tight-lipped about it. He would once in a while make a comment that someday I'm going to be famous. That was about all he would say. To his dying day, he never really revealed what had happened that afternoon. So now, jump back forward to March 1963. Supposedly this Grace picture has been out for many, many years, but at least in the area of the Northwest where my grandma and her sisters lived, the picture suddenly appeared in a number of stores. And so our belief has been that there's some kind of agreement signed and the picture would not be released until after he passed away. But for some reason, all of a sudden, they're practically everywhere. Now, we're going to jump forward to 1981. At this point, my grandma and my grandparents were living across the road from us in Ellensburg, and my grandma just had to know, is that really my father? So she wrote the Engstrom Studios, which is the owner of the picture, and she asked if they'd be willing to share who the subject was in the picture. She got a reply a few weeks later. It's not from Eric himself because he'd already passed away, but somebody in the studio wrote back. They explained that, "I'm sorry, but we're not at liberty to disclose who the actual person is in the picture. And here's a story that we like to share that goes with this picture." Now, the story is an itinerant minister who went around sharpening tools in Minnesota, and that is the story that you read on the internet today, but they had a clipping. I remember seeing the clipping that they'd sent with the letter. So, beyond that, we don't have definite proof that this is my great-grandfather, but there's a lot of evidence. Yes, and my mom was just pointing out that my great-grandfather himself went around sharing religious articles and telling Bible stories, sharing the gospel, and he sharpened tools for people as well. He traveled many places. He went all the way to Florida with some of the family, and then up to Washington, D.C. and back.
Yeah,
and 3 times. And this is back in the 1920s and 30s. So, yeah, it was quite an amazing story. Regardless, he's an amazing man, and I wish I had more information and stories that would definitely be worth writing a book about my great-grandfather, John James Leon Calkins.
If you have a story to tell, a photo, a memory, a letter, a name, we want to hear it. Whether it's passed down through generations or newly discovered, your piece of our story matters, because every voice adds depth to the legacy that we share. Visit calkinsworld.org to contribute your family's chapter. The Grace picture does remain a mystery. Maybe we'll never really have that proof. But again, the truth lives on, not just in the records or photographs, but in the hearts of those who still remember, and the voices we've heard here today. All of this is part of our lineage that's still listening, still asking, and still honoring the past. And sometimes that's just enough to carry a legacy forward. I'm Chris Calkins, the treasurer of the Calkins Family Association, and we'll see you next time.